The first snow had come to the old town that night, falling slow and soft through the lamplight, hushing the streets until the whole world seemed to be holding its breath. And down one quiet road walked an old woman, small and straight-backed, her white hair dusted with snow, on her way home from her very last day of work. For 50 years she had been a doctor. That morning she had closed her clinic for the final time and turned the key and found that her hands, which had saved so many, did not quite know what to do with themselves now. In the pocket of her coat, she carried one small, worn thing, the first stethoscope she had ever owned, its tubing cracked with age. She had kept it for half a century, the way one keeps a thing one cannot speak about. And as she walked, lost in the falling snow, she looked up and saw a small shop where she was certain no shop had ever been. One warm gold window glowing against the white, and a soft lantern by a low door. A little bell rang as the door slid open all on its own, though no hand had touched it. The old doctor hesitated, the way a careful person does. Then the cold pressed at her back, and she stepped in, out of the snow. The shop was small and warm, and it smelled of paper and of green tea and of something clean and old, like the first page of a book. Soft washy paper in the colors of winter lined the walls, snow white and pale gray, and the faint blue of early morning. And behind a low wooden counter sat a white dog, calm and still, watching a single sheet of paper as though it were listening to it. The old woman almost smiled. "I'm sorry to trouble you," she said, her voice steady from a lifetime of being steady. "I seem to have lost my way home." The white dog lifted her head, tilted it gently, and with her nose nudged a worn wooden stool toward the counter. And the old doctor, who had stood and worked and held herself upright for 50 years, sat down slowly the way a person sits when she has been strong for far, far too long. For a while she said nothing. Then she took the old stethoscope from her pocket and laid it on the counter, very gently. "I was good at my work," she said. "I want you to know that first. I saved a great many people. I never gave up on a single one." The white dog said nothing. One ear turned just a little toward her. But there was a girl, the very first patient I could not save. Her name was Rin. She was 19 years old. The old woman's hands went still. I was young then, and so afraid of losing, so I fought. I fought her illness like an enemy, all through the nights. And Rin, she was not afraid of dying. She told me so. She was only afraid of being alone. One night, near the end, she took my hand and she asked me, "Will you stay with me?" Just that. "Will you stay?" She closed her eyes, and I could not bear it. So I hid behind my white coat and I said, "You're going to be fine. I'll be right back." And I went to the next room, to the next emergency, because saving someone was the only thing I knew how to do. When I came back, she was already gone. She had slipped away in the dark, alone, while I was busy being a good doctor somewhere else. She looked up, and her old eyes were wet. I never said goodbye to her, and after that night, I never said goodbye to anyone. I told myself it was strength. For 50 years I have wondered, did she die thinking that no one cared, that I had simply left? The white dog rose, slow and gentle. With the tip of her nose, she slid a single sheet of snow-white washi to the middle of the counter, and then she simply looked at it. The old doctor watched, not understanding, the way the living rarely understand the things that matter most. And the paper began to move. Slowly, softly, all on its own, it folded. One crease, and then another, careful and quiet as falling snow. No hands touched it. The white dog only watched, calm and certain. A small shape rose up from the paper, not a crane. A small, neat box with 4 square sides and a lid that fit just so. The kind of box you keep a precious thing in so that it will not be lost. A box, the old woman whispered. The white dog nudged it gently across the counter until it rested before her, its lid lifted open. And somehow the old doctor understood what she was being asked to do. She leaned close to the little open box, and in a voice no louder than snow, she said the words she had carried for 50 years, the goodbye and the sorry and the staying she had failed to give. Then she closed the lid, and from within the small white box, a soft and gentle light began to glow. As the light rose, the walls of the shop seemed to soften and fall away like snow melting on warm glass. And the old doctor found herself in a small, quiet room she had never seen. Paper screens all around, a low wooden table, and beyond the screens, snow falling, slow and endless and kind. On the table sat the little paper box, and kneeling on the other side of it was a girl, 19 years old, gently luminous, her face soft and unafraid, exactly as she had been, and yet wholly at peace. "Rin," the old doctor breathed. She could not move. "Rin, I am so sorry." The girl only smiled and lifted the lid of the little box and looked inside and nodded as though she had received a letter long delayed. "I heard you know," Rin said softly. "That night. I heard you come back. I heard you find the empty bed, and I heard you cry at the door." She poured tea into 2 small cups. "You did come back, doctor. You were just a little late. That is not the same as not caring. It was never the same." "But I left you," the old woman said. "When you asked me to stay, I left you alone." "You stayed longer than you know," said Rin. "You have stayed with me for 50 years. No one stays that long for someone they did not love." She slid 1 warm cup across the table. "I was never angry, not once. Now drink your tea with me. We never did get to, you and I." And so, in the soft, falling snow, the old doctor and the girl she had lost drank tea together at last and said all the things there had been no time to say. When the old doctor opened her eyes, she was sitting in the little shop again, her cheeks wet, her hands trembling, not with grief now, but with something lighter, something released. She had carried one question for 50 years, and out beyond the snow, at last, it had been answered. Rin had heard her. Rin had known. Rin had never for one moment believed that no one cared. The little paper box stood quietly on the counter, its glow gone soft and still. The white dog nudged it toward her with her nose. The old doctor took it up in her careful hands, as though it held something living. Then she picked up the old stethoscope and held it to her chest and breathed. "Thank you," she said quietly to the white dog and to the little box and to a girl of 19 who had been waiting 50 years to forgive her. Outside, the snow had softened to a few last drifting flakes, and the old town lay white and sleeping and clean. The old doctor walked home through it, slowly, and for the first time in a very long time, her steps did not feel heavy. And that night, at the small desk where she had never been able to write it, she finally took up her pen. She wrote a letter, not to the dead, but to the living, to the young doctors who would come after her, who would one day stand afraid at a bedside in the dark. "Mend the body if you can," she wrote, "but never ever fail to stay. In the end, it is not the medicine they remember. It is the hand that did not let go." She set the small paper box on the desk beside the old stethoscope where the lamplight could reach them both. And that night, For the first time in 50 years, the old doctor slept, deep and easy, and without one ghost at the foot of her bed. Somewhere, in a quiet room where the snow never stopped falling and was never cold, a girl of 19 finished her tea and smiled and was not alone. Some letters are folded, not written,